Hey guys, how's it going, and welcome to episode number 2 of my Getting Started series, where I go over all the fundamentals of training, nutrition, supplementation if you are a complete beginner to weight training. So in my previous episode I touched on how to train, how to start lifting weights, all those basic fundamentals you need to know about training. And obviously diet is super important. Like, you always hear people say, oh, it's like 80% diet and 20% training, and then like some people are super cringe and like, no, it's 100% of both. And to be honest, it is 100% of both. Like, as cringe as that is, you need to have both on point to get optimal results. So today I'm going to be discussing nutrition fundamentals. Now, just as a disclaimer, I am not a registered dietitian. I'm not giving you guys like proper diet advice. These are just guidelines and obviously things that I've seen work on myself, on my clients, things like that. So now that that is out of the way, let's just get straight into today's video. So I'm going to start by explaining what macronutrients are. So we have 3 main macronutrients, which are carbohydrates, protein, and fat. So I'm going to go over each macronutrient, how many calories each one has, what its role is in your diet, and how to set up a specific target for each macronutrient. So let's start with carbohydrates. Now, 1 gram of carbs contains 4 calories, and carbohydrates are our body's preferred source of fuel. So that means that it's going to give you energy. So when you're like working out and you're using that energy, it comes mainly from carbohydrates that are stored as glycogen in your glycogen stores. Now, research has shown that our bodies can survive without carbohydrates. So you could eat 0 grams of carbs every day and your body will go into ketosis and start using your fat stores for energy instead. However, this is suboptimal for performance in the gym if you're a strength athlete, if you're a bodybuilder, if you're an endurance athlete as well, which is why I personally wouldn't recommend eating like 0 carbs. I'd recommend still keeping carbs in your diet, whether you're trying to lean out or gain weight or whatever, just because it will help you, perform well in the gym and lift weights without feeling like crap, essentially. So those are carbohydrates, and we have 2 main kinds of carbohydrates. We have our simple carbs. These are carbs that are digested a lot quicker, things like bread, rice, some cereals, some fruits, things like that. And then we have complex carbs, so whole grains, oats, sweet potatoes, and these carbs take a lot more time to digest because they tend to be a lot higher in fiber. So now that we have carbs out of the way, let's just jump straight into protein. So protein, just like carbohydrates, carries 4 calories per gram, and protein is essential for building muscle because it contains amino acids, and these amino acids are what are used when your body does something called muscle protein synthesis, and that is basically the process by which muscle is built. So your body is constantly breaking down and building muscle. So when you're training, you're breaking down those muscle fibers, and then when you eat and your body gets like amino acids into the bloodstream, that is when it helps build muscle. It's very cliche, but bodybuilders are always preaching like, oh, you have to eat enough protein. And to be fair, depending on your current diet, you may or may not be eating enough. I mean, you're probably eating enough protein to survive, but if you are lifting weights often and frequently and seriously, you're going to need to make sure you're getting a bit more than the average human being, let's say. So a good target for protein would be 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So if you weigh, say, like 150 pounds, that is 150 grams of protein you would be needing to eat every single day. And I would recommend spreading out your protein intake, not having it all at once, because that gives your body more and more opportunities for muscle protein synthesis to occur. So ideally, you'd want to spread it out over 5 meals. 4 is okay. I'd say 4 is like a minimum, but 5 is like ideal and optimal. And also, there's nothing wrong with going like slightly over that recommendation, especially if you're trying to lose fat while building muscle, for 2 main reasons. The first reason is that protein has a higher thermic effect of food than carbohydrates or fats, meaning that your body burns more calories digesting protein than carbs or fats. Now, granted, this is a negligible amount. It's not like a huge amount of calories, but if you eat a lot of protein consistently over time, this does add up and it does make a difference. And the second reason is the fact that protein has a very satiating effect. So the higher your diet is in protein, the more likely you are to feel full after your meals. And obviously, if you are dieting down, trying to lose fat, you want to feel full and not feel hungry. So eat your protein. Now, the third macronutrient is fat. So people tend to stay away from fat. I think it's just like probably a common misconception. Fat doesn't make you fat. You need fat in order to be able to absorb your vitamins and your minerals, and you also need fat for healthy hormones. So with fats, I wouldn't recommend cutting them down too low. So if you take your weight in kilograms, I wouldn't go lower than 0.8 your weight in kilograms. So let's say say you are a petite girl and you weigh 50 kilograms, I would never drop your fats lower than 40 grams of fat per day. And fat is the macronutrient that carries the most calories per gram. It has 9 calories per gram, which is why low-fat diets tend to work, just because foods that are low in fat tend to not be as calorically dense. Foods that are higher in fat tend to pack in more calories for lower food volume. So there's actually a fourth macronutrient that I was debating whether or not to include in this video, but it's still kind of important, so I'm gonna mention it, and that is alcohol. Alcohol has 7 calories per gram, and I would recommend avoiding alcohol like as much as you can. It really is not good for you. I think we all know this. It's not good for your liver. It's not good if you're trying to lose fat. Can you get shredded while drinking? Of course you can. If you track your drinks and you're in a calorie deficit, then you're fine. But I would just try and keep it to a minimum, and here's why. Alcohol dehydrates you a lot, which is why most of us tend to be hungover the next day after we drink. And when you're dehydrated, obviously you don't feel your best and you can't perform your best in the gym because you won't feel good, but also your muscles are dehydrated, so they can't really exert as much force, so you're gonna be knocked out of the gym the next day, that is for sure. And also, when you drink alcohol, obviously you're intoxicated, you don't think straight, and it's easy to lose track of how much you're drinking, and it's easy to binge drink, and it's easy to binge eat after a long night of drinking. A lot of people tend to just go and have takeout, and it's a very social thing where you're with your friends and you're drinking, and that's fine, but you need to be smart about it and learn how to moderate yourself. Obviously, not just because you don't want to do anything stupid, but you don't want to gain a lot of fat, because studies have shown that when you consume alcohol, all the excess carbs that you consume are a lot more likely to go straight into your fat stores instead of going into your glycogen stores. And we want to make sure that most of the excess carbs, or carbs that we're consuming in general, go to our glycogen stores. So all of these macronutrients contain calories, as I mentioned, and calories are what we use to measure the amount of energy we burn and we consume. So as humans, without even doing anything, we're burning calories just to stay alive, and also all the food that we eat is energy consumption, basically. And the amount of calories a human burns in a day, it varies from day to day, but it also varies between different people. And the factors that determine how many calories you burn in a day include your age, your overall size, your body composition, so how much muscle you have, how much fat you have, your bone density. It also depends on your genetics, and it also depends on your daily activities, so how much you tend to move on a day-to-day basis. Now, it is very difficult to get an exact number of how many calories each person burns in a day. Yes, there are a lot of calorie calculators online, but I have come up with an amazing foolproof method for you to figure out how many calories you are burning every day, and I'll be making a whole separate video on just that because it does need a lot of explanation. So basically, why calories are important is because the amount that you consume determines whether or not you will gain weight, lose weight, or maintain your weight. So if you're eating at a calorie surplus, meaning that you're consuming more calories than you burn, you will gain weight. If you eat the same amount of calories than you burn that you are eating at your maintenance level, so your weight will stay stable. And then lastly, if you're eating fewer calories than you burn every single day, you are in a calorie deficit. So how do you set up your calories and your macros? First, I want you to pick a goal. Are you trying to gain weight, maintain your weight, or lose weight? And when I say weight, I mean fat, because you can very well lose fat and gain muscle at the same time. I have a whole other video on this. I will link it right here so you can go check that out. So once you've decided what you want to do, if you are trying to add a bit more body fat, if you feel really lean and you don't like the look, whether you're trying to maintain your weight, you're happy with how much body fat you have on you, or if you want to get a bit leaner, that is how you're going to set up your calories. You decide whether you're going to be in a surplus, if you're going to eat at maintenance, or if you're going to be in a calorie deficit. Next, we are going to set targets for our 3 macronutrients. We're going to start with protein because it's the most important one, and like I previously mentioned, we're going to be aiming for 1 gram per pound of body weight. So let's say this person is eating 2,000 calories and they weigh 150 pounds. You will be aiming for 150 grams of protein per day. You can go a bit higher if you want, if you find protein to be really filling, but 150 grams of protein per day is perfect if you weigh 150 pounds and you're lifting weights. Now with carbs and fats, it doesn't really matter that much how you spread them out. It mostly does come down to personal preference, but also to performance in the gym. So let's start with fats, because with fats there is a minimum that I do not want anyone to go below. As I mentioned, 0.8 grams per kilo of body weight. So with the 1,400 calories remaining for this 150 pound person, since we already set their protein to 150 grams, which is 4 calories per gram, that leaves us with 1,400 calories. Let's say we're gonna set their fat to 50 grams. It's low but not too low. It's perfect to keep your hormones in check. Then that takes away 450 calories, and that leaves us with 950 calories that will come from carbs. And if you do the math, it's about 237 grams of carbs, give or take. So again, the fats and the carbs don't matter that much. Just make sure you're getting enough fat, and everything else can come from carbs. And in terms of like meal timing, I would consume most of your carbs pre and post workout for optimal performance in the gym. So that is how you set up your calories and your macros, guys. I hope you found this video helpful. If you think I missed out on anything, or if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment down below. Make sure you give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and hit that subscribe button for more fitness content, for more workout motivation, things like that. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!